Right, I've done it. All right. Welcome to the Andy Noise Experience, podcast, endurance, noise, and random musings. And who do I have tonight with me?
Craig Simmons.
All right. And Craig is up in Northern California, but he's in a place that's kind of just as hot as Bakersfield. We're in the hundreds, and he's in Rockland. And I wanted Craig on here. I met him a few years ago. He was actually was one of our athletes we coached, Sunshine Endurance. And how did you end up finding out about us or hearing about us?
I don't remember. I think I read Corey's book, and he talked about Across the Years, and that sounded like a good first ultra. So and I started doing some research for online coaching, and you're well ingrained into Across the Years. So I think you came up in my Google search results when I was looking for Across the Years coach.
Yeah, and we've definitely spent time at Across the Years, going around and around.
Yes,
you've been there a few times, I really enjoy those kind of looped format races. And of course, you yourself now have one, which you started last year, and that one's coming up. And so far, you're going to be able to have it.
So far, yeah, I think it's looking promising. I see other races are going off. Martin Sengo's got Cool Moon going off here another week or so. So I see he's limited to 35 entries, and he's taken social distancing to the extreme. He's handling it well. He's starting his runners every 15 seconds. But he's also dealing with single track, and we've got our track's wide enough to drive a car on all the way around. So we're a small race. I think last year we were at 50 entrants, for a first year race. It's a wide track. And, I think I've been kind of watching races that are happening and stealing every good idea that I can.
That's what I do. We're
all thieves.
No, but I never reinvent the wheel. I haven't in my entire career. And that's why I call it Andy Noise Experience from Joe Rogan Experience. And of course, he took a from Hendrick Experience. So I was like, that's kind of name. Actually, I kind of go by endurance, noise, and random musings, I think, on Spotify and stuff like that. But speaking of that, it's like your race course, I wanted to go last year, but it conflicted with stuff. But because yours is on a private property, right?
It is.
Yeah, which makes a big difference.
That's
kind of the future of ultra running. I've been saying it for years, and I've talked to Ethan Vander Klassen, the guy who does Broken Arrow. And he has the Broken Arrow there at Squaw Valley. I don't know if we're allowed to say Squaw Valley anymore, the Olympic Training Center. And he was, doing the Broken Arrow, which me and Allison did in 2017 and kicked my ass. I was at mile going up that K2 or whatever climb, and the guys were doing the second lap caught me. They made 16 miles up on me in my first 8. And that's when I decided to shimmy on my rear to the finish line and quit. but going long thing is that like doing like Luis Escobar doing on a ranch, you doing it at this facility. And now what's the facility you're doing it at? What's it called exactly?
The place is called Ride to Walk. It's right above your head. It's a local nonprofit. They do horseback therapy, equine therapy for children and young adults with behavioral disabilities, and it's a really a neat organization. They're well loved in the community. The race benefits them. They have been great. Dr. Korn runs the place, and Terry actually runs the ranch. He's a great guy. He took care of us last year. Anything we needed, he was on top of it. So Dr. Korn has assured me that she is 100% behind us going off in September.
Yes.
They're trying to get another event going in September as well. So I think you're right. I think the private property helps. We're also, Placer County has not been, we're on Newsom's watch list, but who isn't? But we had, I think, 64 cases on July 13th was our peak. Yeah. And the last 3 days that they've reported, we've had 4, 5, and 4 cases. Yeah. So we went from 63 down to 4, essentially. So, I don't know what a flattened curve looks like. And I don't know what it's going to look like in 2 months, but I'm confident that we're going to happen. And if we don't, we're going to make some assurances that we can talk about here in a little bit for,
Yeah,
as far as the no refunds and.
Yeah, I kind of ask open-ended questions like about the facility, just instead of me, getting pretty. I did read it out. I did a little bit of podcast. Didn't get too many things wrong, except for like the being US certified. But I call it. Bill Simmons calls it half-ass internet research. I don't know if you ever listen to Bill Simmons' show, but yeah, he's another guy that does a lot of stuff with a Ringer, and he's a sports guy, but they do like the rewatchables where they watch an old movie and talk about it, like they did Ferris Bueller the other day. And he always has a segment called half-ass internet research, and that's kind of what I do. I kind of like look at it and go, okay, this is the specifics on the race. But yeah, I mean, I myself, it's a race, it's outdoors, it's in the heat. It's like, things are, I often tell people that, look, I have a degree in biology from UC San Diego, actually physiology, and I have a degree in economics. I'm way overeducated. I'm not doing this to brag. I'm just saying that so I understand the biology of these things, and I understand the statistics, because you can't get those degrees without learning both the DNA and statistics. And I still can't wrap my head around what's going on and what we're doing. And then I also the biologist in me says, yeah, I'm not going to go in crowded buildings and singing or yelling, but if I'm at a race, like I go hiking with a few close friends and it's 100 degrees out and we're generally not holding hands and kumbaya, we're walking along like me and you have done it across the years, side by side, talking. And so the chances of transmission are pretty, I haven't really heard of anything happening on an outdoor facility outdoors. And then of course, with like your race, everybody generally has their own personal aid stations, and you can just say, hey, I almost never go to the aid stations myself. Usually I'm just grabbing my Diet Dr. Peppers and keep on rolling, as you all know. And I often just blast through aid stations, and you constantly have to like run to catch up to me again, because that's just in fact, that's a strategy to improve your time, is just not wasting a lot of time. So I really look forward to having your race go on, and I'm really thinking I'm definitely going to try and come up there. I mean, I would be there in a heartbeat. It's just I am a legacy at Blue, which got moved on to your date, Beyond Limits.
Right.
And I've done it like the 7 years in a row, and thank God this legacy thing didn't get started, because I've been running racing since the 70s. So my calendar would be full if I just was legacying stuff. I mean, like I ran the first LA Marathon. Thank God I didn't keep that tradition up, right? I have to go do that thing every year, and I hate that. And so, but their races, have you been to that race?
No, I haven't. Yeah. No, it's on my list.
It's like it's an awesome race. It's like across the years. It's a 2-mile loop, but including the entry fee and stuff, which is usually great, you get to stay in the bunkhouses that the kids stay in.
Right.
And there's a cafeteria, which is all amazing shit. But not now.
Oh, they kill it this year?
No. I meant, but the facility, they haven't done it yet. But what I'm saying is, where we sleep is in a big dorm style room with 40 bunks, like a military barracks.
Right. So you're not going to be able to do that.
I would seem
we
like
would
a good idea. No,
right?
Like
you want to sleep with 40 other people?
I don't sleep well with other people anyway, so I sometimes have been lucky and they've given me a better room, or I actually just go sleep in a tent outside or in my car, because I don't want to keep people. And so you kind of look at the logistics of that race, where you have group sleeping and the cafeteria, which is really great. They serve you breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's awesome. But you look at it now going, like, everybody sits around the table and we send one person to go get the salad, one person to go get the pasta. Well, all of that's like not gonna happen. So I was talking to Ed, and it sounds like he's definitely gonna be trying to make it up there. He has the same conflict. In fact, he's coming home from Tennessee. So I'm pretty certain that I'm gonna if Blue happens, I will probably do Blue, just because I kept, there's not a whole lot of legacies left, but I really want to come up and do your race. So, and I'm not just, and you know me, I'm not saying that just to blow smoke up your skirt.
Right. No, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't fault you for not. It's when I picked the weekend, I went on Running Against Time on Facebook, and I went on their race calendar and went, oh look, that weekend doesn't have a race. That's my weekend. So that's, when I started the race, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to get on Rat, and I'm going to pick a weekend that doesn't have a race.
Yes.
I'm going to grab Mike Melton, who's everybody's favorite timer, the best timer on the planet. And I'm going to try to get some of these people. And then this year hopefully gets rescheduled onto my weekend. So, I talked to Jester the other day, and I totally get it. I understand it that,
Yeah.
You guys have legacy there. So,
Yeah, I mean, like, believe me, if I didn't have that, and it's, well, actually, it's the only race I guess I am the legacy at my own race, the Celtic
right,
24,
right.
which I kind of have to go to since it's at my high school and it's 5 miles from my house. In fact, we'll have to get you come down to it. Speaking of running, how are you doing? I hear you said something about being injured.
My wife tried to kill me, basically. So yeah, we're getting ready to go up to Angriel in Salem on the 15th.
Yeah.
Ed's going up there. I know you thought about it, but which Angriel, 7 spots left. I saw this morning. Shameless plug for Josh and Emily. If you guys haven't registered for Angriel, it's a great little ultra up there. It's a really neat little
beautiful.
loop.
Looks fun.
It's a great loop.
Yeah.
It's flat. It's in a public park. It kind of runs. It's really weird. It kind of runs through like this, ornate garden, and then back through some trees and into the dirt. So you feel like you're in the backcountry next to a stream, and then you're back into a city park by softball fields. It's just a completely random mile, but it's Josh and Emily, I owe them 100% for my race, because there's a 2-mile loop outside my door, and I've run it 1,000 times.
Yes.
And, that's my go-to. And I used to just think, it's 12 hours to Phoenix to across the years, or it's 8 hours up to Salem to Angriel. I should just put on a loop. How hard could it be? And then I thought, nah, it's got to be more complicated than that. Well, a couple of years back, we went up to Angriel, and Josh makes no bones about the fact that it's a minimalist race. You're not going to get 40 pounds of swag, but he gives you a super cool trucker hat, and he generally gives out awards to the placing finishers. You're not going to get a bunch of medals and buffs and like all this stuff stacked in my corner.
Yeah.
But he proved to me that for a couple $1,000 you can put a race on and be successful with it. And that's what really the impetus for starting this race was, going and doing that. And I came home and got a hold of Ride to Walk and worked out a loop, and it went from there. So now this year we started. Last year we were 6:12:24 hour. This year we added the 100-miler, which we've got some interest in. Jester came last year and did my first 100 in the 24, so he got my one and only buckle last year. He got the first buckle for Ride to Walk, which is neat. And then the other day he was talking about adding a 48, and it's on my list. It's something that I really want to do. I have to clear it with Ride to Walk, because I can't interrupt their program.
Yes.
It's counterintuitive to run a race to support their nonprofit and say, oh, by the way, you can't have any kids out here for 2 days while I run this silly race. So, I completely got off my topip, but
oh no, that's fine. No,
Angry Owl, we're supposed to go do, but my wife, she went to Oregon last month and called me on her way to the emergency room, wheezing and couldn't breathe. And turns out the hotel I checked her into wasn't as nice as the last time we'd stayed there, and they were rather fond of their cigarette and pot smoke on the 2nd floor.
Oh.
She was on the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
So she had just this full-on asthma and bronchitis thing, and ended up in the ER in Oregon for a couple of days. So fast forward to like July 5th, she's feeling better, and we go out for, 8 or 9 in the morning. And then that evening we run over to Folsom Lake, and we go do another 5, I think, at Folsom Lake. And she starts wheezing a little bit on the trail at the lake. And I'm like, this isn't good. Well, by the next day, she was in full on panic attack mode, couldn't breathe. So she ends up spending 6 days in the hospital, and it's COVID. So there's there's no go in with your wife. I rolled up to the ER, opened the door, threw her out, said, have fun, I'll see you later. And I didn't see her for the next 6 days. She was locked up in the hospital. She got, 57 breathing treatments, and she's still on her run of steroids. And so, to get to my point, she comes out of the hospital and raises the head of our bed so that she can breathe. Well, I sleep on my side, and she balled me up into a ball that night. And I woke up the next day, and my arm was excruciating. Just the weight of my arm hanging. I pinched a nerve. That was I think 18 days ago, and I still can't feel my thumb or my forefinger on my left hand. I'm completely, it's the most aggravating thing on earth. I can make it through my day now, but I'm not a good morning person anyway, and getting up to go run when you can't feel your arm is, less than stellar. So I'm thinking Angry Al might be a really expensive half marathon by the time we get up there. She can't run, and I haven't ran in a month, basically.
Well,
so
it's got nice weather and it's pretty, right? At least.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Yeah, but you'll be surprised. As Josh says on the site, to be prepared for it to be 90 degrees or to be wet and rainy. And I've had it just, it started at noon the last couple of years, and it was 90s, and you're cooking out there during the day. You're doing the wet towels on your head and trying to cool off.
Yeah, but I generally I live in Bakersfield, and I do well in the heat. But I tell people, just because I do well in the heat doesn't mean you don't see me racing in the heat, because it's like no fun. So why would I want to do it? So generally in the summer I do a lot of hiking. I meet up with groups of people, and I kind of like a Sherpa and take them to Whitney and the High Sierra. In fact, I'm training for High Sierra at the beginning of September with a couple ladies. And so, but yeah, I generally don't race a lot. So, but we're talking about, and didn't know your wife with getting dropped off the hospital. I had 56 back in April, went to the hospital for the very first time in my life. I don't know if you've heard about that. Yeah. No, and got dropped off, and my wife, had to leave me. Yeah, I've documented it a lot, but anyways, I've never been hurt, and as you knew when I was saying, first of all, stay healthy, be boring, not epic, the whole thing, staying healthy. And I know you've often had issues with injuries.
That's because I'm dumb. I don't listen to my coaches, and I go do what I want. So.
Well, a lot of people just go hard, and yeah, it's like, you got to be healthy, but yeah, I mean, you're not alone. Believe me, I feel like I'm just preaching to the people that are never ever listening to me. But yeah, so in March I had a bad fall. This local restaurant dumped their baking grease on the sidewalk, and I walked by at 5:30 in the morning in the dark, and I did one of those perfect banana falls, when you slip on the banana peel.
Yep.
And I basically for 6 weeks could not walk or do anything. That was bad enough. And then what happened was, like, in late April, I finally could walk, but I couldn't breathe. And it got so bad that I scared my wife. Couldn't believe that I actually, because I never go to the doctor, I ended up going to the ER on April 25th. And of course I got profiled to see fat old guy, and they think I'm heart attack, diabetes. And I kept telling them, no, I don't have any of these issues. And every time I saw a doctor today, so you've had heart disease, history of heart disease, you've had heart pain. No. Well, it turned out what it was what helped me was I had weighed myself just before I went in. And I remember telling Allison, I go, oh my God, I weigh 465. And she's like, you got on the scale during COVID? What are you, a masochist? She's like, there's no way I'm going to touch a scale. And so when I got on the scale, when I got in there, they identified that I had all this fluid buildup. It was like a diabetic or something. And they thought I had congestive heart failure. Well, they gave me Lasix. I peed away 21 pounds of fluid in 24 hours.
Oh, Jesus.
It's because when I got home, I was 243. And so all that water weight was keeping me from breathing. Long story short, I spent time in the hospital, just mainly because they want to do the tests, and the hospital was pretty quiet at the time back in April. And I passed 5 or 6 different heart tests. So I'm back to, I'm at over 1,000 miles in Laz's great race across Tennessee. So 3 months after I got out of the hospital, I covered 1,000 miles in his race. So.
I'm not going to make it. I'm going to DNF a virtual, and that really tears at my soul. I'd have to do like 15 miles a day from now on to make it
to do the back across, or just the 1,000.
Just to finish. Yeah. We were doing really, really great until April went down. She keeps me motivated.
Oh yeah, she's tough. She's
the ultra runner. I just her chauffeur, man. She goes across the years and does 53 off the couch. So I can't compete with that. But
because one year, didn't she do every hour for 48 straight?
Yeah. She did the year before last. She did the 48 hour round the clock. So every hour she got up and had to shed to
Yeah.
lug a lap every hour.
And
And
I'm known for not sleeping, but I don't think I've got that big a streak.
oh, she had
Yeah.
it down,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
She'd wake up at like 10 minutes before the hour, hit the mat, lug that lap, come around, hit her next lap, 10 minutes after the hour,
Mm-hmm.
and then she could go lay down for an hour and a half. Because
Yep.
as long as you've got that
Oh, yeah.
punch within that hour, and Melton checked her out at the end, and so her medal's hanging on the wall. This is right to walk behind me. But
yeah, I remember when I saw that, I was like, congratulations on that. And that's a
well, the sick thing is I got super sick night 2 at across the years. I don't know if I ate something, but it was a long way to the porta potty. Let me just put it that way. And I came into the tent and had to announce to everybody sleeping within a 50-foot radius of us that I was not feeling well, and I had to go to the hotel so I could be close to the toilet.
Yeah.
And I said, you can quit and come back to the hotel with me if you want. She said no. So she, not only did she do the 53 off the couch by herself, she did it literally, it was 30 degrees at night.
It's freezing ass cold there. Believe me, I've been there for 1,400 miles.
I was in the hotel, nice and warm. I was miserable. I was ruining the bathroom, but she stayed there all night like a trooper and did 53 miles. I couldn't have been prouder of her. So, and then we go up to Angriel last year, and I think she took second or third overall in the 12-hour. She went up there off the couch and ripped off a 50K, and she just goes and does it. She doesn't care. She's not like me, where I'm in my head half the time and thinking, why am I doing this? This is stupid. She just goes out and does it. So.
But speaking of in your head, and you did a pretty baller thing that I don't think I'll ever be able to do. You did 100 miles on a treadmill.
Yeah, I don't recommend that.
I
actually loved my treadmill before that, and now I'm not so fond of it. So
because that was back in the December time frame or something, right? Yeah.
That was Scott Burton.
Yes,
I blame Scott Burton for that one. That was
I was going to bring him up. He's a mutual friend of ours that I've spent many time torturing him and torturing you. But and I talked to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Craig," and I'm like, "Oh, you guys together." Bad news.
Yeah, I remember I was laying in bed the other night. I couldn't sleep, and I was just scrolling back through Instagram looking at old posts, and I got back to that challenge. And I remember laying on the floor at 5 o'clock in the morning, just going, I'm laying here for 20 minutes so that I can get up and grind out 2 miles an hour, and then laying down for 20 minutes. And I was going to quit. And then, Corey Reese in his book talks about when you're formulating your Facebook post on why you quit, that's a bad sign.
Yeah.
And I said, what, screw it. I'm just going to go, I'll go lay down for an hour or two, catch a little nap. And so I did. And then I got up and headed to Starbucks and got a nice coffee. And that was it. I was back to 5 miles an hour and just trucking right along. You just had to reset and get your brain out of that. This sucks. Why the hell am I doing this?
Because how long did you end up taking to do that?
I think it was 30 total. It was like 26 running time. I could have gone faster, but like I said, I was logging 2 miles an hour at night, so I was not doing well. So
I've been using the treadmill a lot lately with Swift. I really like that program, and it has some guided workouts. And so in the afternoons, instead of going out and facing the 105-degree weather, I'm using it in my house instead, even though the AC is not on. I've been putting in my 3 or 4 miles and enjoying it. And but I think the longest I've ever been on the treadmill in a day is maybe 7 or 8 miles in a 24-hour period. And so I totally understand Scott. Yeah, Scott's just a machine, and he just doop. And also he lives in Canada where it's below zero most of the year.
Right. Well, I think he's on one pretty much all day. He gets the treadmill dust things. So while he's working, he's walking on a treadmill. Yeah. He'll log 40 miles a day without even thinking about it. So for him, 100 is, that's just an extra long walk.
So like I said, but I saw you doing that. And I did that one year at Across the Years where I had to get, 312 miles to get my 1,000-mile jacket. And after 4 or 5 days, I was just pretty much like, I'm over this. And I realized, if I can just do 2 miles an hour for the next ungodly amount of time, a couple of days. And so what I would do is kind of like what your wife's doing, but I could handle 2 laps at a time. So I would just do 2 laps as quick as I could, and then I was giving myself like an hour or 70 minutes. So like if I finished them faster, I got to sit and hang out longer. And I did that for like a day and a half, where I just basically, I took a couple extended breaks. I didn't do it in a consecutive like your wife, but I just basically for like 20 hours a day would just go 2 miles, sit, 2 miles, sit, 2 miles, sit, 2 miles, sit, you know, because I just couldn't go out there and grind like I did with Scott when I helped him get to his 300. We were out there walking for like 8 hours straight, just in the dark, walking along, you know, and he got his 300 finally, but we were doing like 25-minute miles out there, and it was just brutal. I really wish we'd had a microphone and just been recording all of it, but it was such a nightmare. So yeah, so you got your race. Do you have, I mean, it's kind of a dumb question saying, hey, do you have a race plan yourself? You probably don't really for anything coming up, because so much.
No, so well, that's the sick thing is, you know, like I said, I created my race so that I'd have one close, but when you're directing a race, you can't run it, you know.
Yeah.
I hope that someday it kind of becomes self-sufficient, and you know, maybe April can, you know, she don't get me wrong, she's an immense help out there, but
yeah.
I'm hoping that maybe I can get away and run a little bit more, but I doubt it. I'll have to come up with something else to do it, but I don't know. I was going to ask you what you thought if across the years it was going to happen this year or not. It's with Arizona being the hotbed that it is. I know that they're still on their wait list and everybody, but I was going to try to go because we didn't go last year and it was miserable. I was so just lovesick, homesick watching day one when across the years started popping up on Facebook. I was bummed that I didn't go. So.
Yeah, you know, it's just, you know, who knows? I mean, the thing that's kind of interesting is they talk about in the past, it's kind of going to biology, that, you know, the flu season would be in the winter. And it's like, well, yeah, because everyone's inside together. Well, the problem is now we're all pussies because we have air conditioning. So now in the summer, we're all inside. That's why this is continuing on, because when you're in a place like Arizona and Texas and Florida, back in the day, you'd be sitting outside trying to cool off wherever you could. Now you're inside with the AC. And so the bug's going, hello, we love, you know, COVID's going, I love this. You guys are all inside because, you know, Phoenix is 110 in the summer. Right. So, you know, but back in the day, people didn't either live in Phoenix or you certainly weren't sitting indoors as much as they are now. So that's kind of the issue, you know, but they are also pretty lax on stuff there, you know, so who knows what's going to happen. You know, with that whole organization, they've been around and they're so big, I would imagine they're going to try and they want to stay on the right side of everybody. So they want to continue on, you know, with the whole of vibe. I mean, they have they're a big business. So I would not want to be jeopardizing that with anybody. Now, you know, so it's crazy is Ed's gone off to Kansas and did 100 there 2 weeks ago. That was like an open road one. And then he just did this Three Sisters on a 3-mile loop in Tennessee. And I asked him about COVID. He's like, it was just same old. He goes, they weren't doing anything. He said he walked up to the starting line with his Badwater buff, and he was the only one with any kind of covering of the 70, 80 people around. Aid station was just old school aid station. He said he's getting killed by the humidity. And actually, I posted a picture. He actually did 1 lap and then ran without a shirt the rest of the race.
Really?
Yeah. No hat, no shirt.
Where are the photographs?
Short
pictures, or it didn't happen?
No, I there's a photo I posted on his Patreon page. We've kind of started a Patreon, and I think I threw up on Instagram. I'll have to send it to you, but yeah.
He kept a hat though, right?
The picture of him is with the medal. I think he took everything off. Oh no, he said his shorts.
Even the jester hat came off.
Yeah. Well, because his shorts and socks and shoes were wet the entire time. Because I don't know if you've been back east, but the humidity is just insane. I crewed and paced 50 miles of Badwater in 2018 or whatever, and then I went to Race Free Ages a month later. I was cooler at Badwater.
Right. Oh yeah. No, I lived in Fort Lauderdale for a year and a half.
Oh, okay.
My skin was nice and supple the whole time because I was constantly drenched. So
let's see. Yeah, I do feel bad for you. Like you said, you put on your race and you love to run it. I'm kind of nuts. What I do is I often tell people, like, I love coming up with ideas for parties, and I like to plan the party and promote the party, but I never want to host the party. And so I'm never going to be an RD. I talk to people who want to be the game day RD. And so my friend Adam Setzer is always the RD. He does run ultras himself. So for the one here in Bakersfield, I come up with the idea and I promote it and everything. But on race day, I'm like, I'm more like I'm Willie Mays out there, hey, greeting everybody. Like, hey, I'm out here. But yeah, I'm like, but for me, it's more talking about like anxiety. That's the stress level just goes through the roof of like putting on something like that. But he's been a high school track and cross country coach. And so he's used to those big things and stuff. So with your course, it's how long is the course, the loop?
0.84 miles. So it's a little less than a mile.
Yeah.
When I originally pitched it to him, I asked if there was a mile loop out there, and Terry, the gentleman that runs the ranch, said, "Oh yeah, there's a mile out here." And we got in a golf cart, and he took me on a mile, but it kind of crossed itself a couple of times. And I thought, well, that's perfect. You got me exactly to a mile, but let's make it 0.84 and we'll just kind of run the perimeter of the park. And I think first lap last year, yours truly marked the course. So what I thought was an obvious right turn to the back timing mat was not so obvious to everybody else. So they probably got an extra 0.16 on the first mile because they all headed straight out the back gate. And then I see them all come trucking right straight back in the back gate. So we fixed the course marking this year. There won't be any wrong turns, but
I've marked a lot of courses, and it's difficult to try and put, especially when you're marking, to put your head in the mind of the runner. And a lot of runners are totally brain dead.
Well, I understood it. It was obvious.
Oh no, I mean, and also you don't realize like I used to mark race courses where people are running really fast, like 5-minute miles. You don't realize the ribbons are coming up on them really fast because you're walking at 20-minute miles. And so, it's difficulty. But I like the fact that, it's just, I always tell race directors, they'll often do crazy shit so they can make it a mile or 2 miles with stupid out and backs and stuff. And I'm like, we have spreadsheets, we have computers, we just put 0.86 in and we'll calculate it later. And I've been on so many courses just have cockamamie lefts and turns and just drives me up the wall, of course, like across years, it's 1.05 miles, 1.04. But what's nice about that is every time you do 20 laps, you get a mile.
You get a bonus mile, yeah.
But when you get to almost 100, you're actually at 99.85 and you got to do another damn lap. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah.
We, last year I learned a lot. Last year we did a turn every 4 hours. I wanted to be like across the ears and turn you around and wear the other ankle out. But it just turned out the turn was more trouble than it was worth. You have people starting at midnight for my second 12 hours. So they're trying to learn the course in the dark. So this year we're going to keep it simple. It's the course kind of lends itself to a natural figure eight. If you go on thunderultras.com, there's an actual, satellite shot of the course.
Yeah.
So there's a 25-foot hill out back. So you get 25 feet of gain every lap, which I took them up. Everybody seemed to like the clockwise direction on the little hill loop on the backside, which is a nice gradual up and then the steeper side down. And then it crisscrosses back, makes figure eight, and then goes through the horse ranch. So I took the turns out to simplify it, but I made it a figure eight. So you're wearing out every other ankle, every other, every half lap. It goes around a really, really beautiful lake, which you can actually see behind me if you can see my virtual background. There's another little kind of green lily pad pond off to the left as you run out. So you're running between the lake and the pond over a bridge. It's really an excellent course. It's super flat. Terry goes out there, and I shit you not, he cuts the goat heads down. He grooms it down like a ski slope for us. I was expecting goat heads and burrs and everything. He was out there. He mowed that thing down to nothing, and completely groomed the loop for us. It was fantastic. So I hopefully maybe next year all of this goes away and we get a USATF certification to go with the sanction. It's not a perfectly flat course, so I don't know how many people are going to want to show up and try to run a record on a not perfectly flat course. There are better suited courses to do it, but to say we're certified and you get what you paid for. I guess that holds some weight to some people. I think everybody's running the same loop and we're all counting the same 0.84, so it doesn't matter. We can make it 10 miles. It doesn't matter. You're all running the same distance. So
every year we talk about trying to get it certified, and somebody actually donated the wheel parts and stuff. And Adam always
Mhm.
like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then we just never really do it. And, but our race is pretty damn close to a mile loop because running around a school and they lay these things out with blueprints. So it's
Right.
generally, and so, but yeah. And then the problem is if you do get, it is what it is, but it's just fun to have that aspect. So, yeah, so it's got that's the course. And I saw that because of being small and especially probably with COVID, pacers and stuff like that aren't gonna, you don't usually allow them on there. It just gets
No,
too.
I'm pretty generous. I stole that from Josh at Angry Owl as well. I've had April come out and drag me around for a couple of laps at Angry Owl, and I'll extend the same
Yeah,
courtesy. Maybe we might have to be a little tighter this year with COVID restrictions and social distancing, all
yeah,
that. I don't, just to not crowd the loop, I
yeah,
think is the ultimate goal. But we'll have to see how registrations go. We may not be that crowded in the first place. I say on my website that pacers aren't allowed,
yeah,
but you're more than welcome to go do a lap or two with your loved one. I think it's neat to be able to go do that, especially
yeah,
for your non-running life partner that supports you in all this
yeah.
crazy crap, to go do a lap with you. So
Yeah, I mean, like I do a lot of these loop races. I don't mind. It's when you got someone out there having someone dedicated running with them for hours and hours and
right,
hours, then it gets a
yeah,
little bit annoying as someone who's on the
muling
course.
all their stuff, and
Yeah,
yeah,
and
no,
just
no,
and then
right,
of course, when it comes to like setting records and stuff, you're not allowed to have the pacers at all. And
sure,
I've often, like me and Ed talk about it, about having. I wish we could have like an organization for fixed time race directors and whatnot. Like, okay, these are the basic rules, because like we
right,
were talking the other day about what's the rule on like the race he just went to last one. There was like only one or two guys who've done 100 there, and Ed had to kill himself this year to get the 100. He ended up getting 100 with 2.5 minutes on the clock,
oh Jesus,
and he was only the second guy. The only two guys got it, but then they had another guy who they credited for 100 miles, but he finished like in 24:30.
no, yeah, no, the race
And
is
it's
24 hours long,
yeah,
dude.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
that doesn't
yeah.
count.
And so it's like, okay, well, if you get across the line like, and it's a 3 mile loop, so you get across the line in 23, 59, 62, 42,
Nope.
you get
Yeah,
to
yeah,
go
yeah.
around. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
like your
no.
loop's short, so it's not as big an
Yeah.
issue, but it's like, no, I always like when people, like, I'm at races and they stop early, I go, well, it's a 48-hour or a 24-hour race. That's fine and dandy. You got your 100K, but I'm going to go do 63, and I
Yeah.
beat you. So
Yeah.
I don't care if
That's
you went to the hotel for
right.
like
I
I get in trouble all the time, so I don't even care. But I got in trouble one time where I was actually just trying to do a statistical analysis of what your marathon PR is and what you've done in 24 hours. Because it'd be some good research so that people like yourself, when you're first starting out, or other people, could kind of go, okay, I can run this for a marathon. This guy did this for 24. And so, I did like 90. My PR in 24 is 93 miles. And when I was doing 93 miles, I was a 5-hour marathoner. So that's a pretty good ratio.
yeah.
And then, of course, like Joe Fee just says, if you can break 3 hours, you can make the national team or get close. You can do 130, 140 miles because you got the leg speed. And so I was collecting the data, and then guys were like doing my marathons, 3 hours, but my 24 is, 100 because I stopped. And I'd be like, so I put in the spreadsheet, well, 3-hour marathon, 100-mile for the 24. And but I stopped with 6 hours on the clock. And I'm like,
Yeah. Well, that's what you
but
did.
if I go on Ultra Sign Up, your 24-hour PR, and I had a half a dozen guys doing that. And I'm like,
Right.
you understand, I'm looking at statistics. I don't care if you stopped, like you were that Adam Crowley talks about. One of his guys keep calling the porcelain punisher. When you were across the years a few years ago, you were the porcelain punisher, and you had to go back to the hotel. And
Right.
so whatever the number is you got that year was your number.
Yeah. It
I
was
did a
terrible.
I did a 72-hour race up near you, the Gilroy.
Yeah.
The Gilroy one. I showed up. It started at night. Night finish starts are terrible. Just was feeling terrible. It took me like, I was doing like 3 miles an hour for the first 3 or 4 hours, and I knew it was going to rain the next day. And then they let a bunch of the people do a loop course out into the hills. There's only like 10 or 12 of us in a race. They're like, oh, we have this 5-mile loop where you can do it out in the hills, or you can do the 2-mile paved loop. So they split the field up. So now there's only like 6 of us on the pavement. So I got to like 20 miles, took a break, and thought, I feel terrible. I'm going to just go home, and I have a 21-mile, 72-hour finish.
Nice.
But I don't go well, but I left with, 68 hours on the clock. Yeah, but that's just the way it goes. So
I feel like you've always been good at that, though. I mean, you're okay. I'll beat myself up to no end. You show up, and if you're not feeling it, you're just like, yeah, screw it. I'm not feeling it. You're just good at, it just rolls off. So I've always kind of admired that about you. So that you show up to what was it, a 6-day the first year that I was down there, and across the years you show up with a duffel bag about this big, and we drive over and get you 12 packs of Diet Dr. Pepper, and you sleep in the warming tent, and that's it.
Well, the first time I did the 6-day, I took a bus there.
Yeah, right.
From Bakersfield.
And I'm putting a roof rack on the car because my wife, she gives me crap all the time because I bring everything in the garage. It's like, well, you never know you're going to need it.
But the problem, but the thing is, the problem for you though is that because a lot of people, you're investing so much time and money to get all the way there. So when you're there, you're kind of like, I just gotta, But it probably comes from like having a degree in economics and just sunk cost.
Right.
Once you've put the money in, if it isn't working, don't invest more capital, whether that's money, mental capital, brain power. It's like, this isn't working. Don't just chase it because like, I put all this money and this into it and things aren't working. Like, it's just kind of like, that's my mentality, and, live for another day. I mean, well, I went to the Dome. 2019 was bad for Ed, I can't even speak. And I had a terrible 2019 too. I went to the 6 days of the Dome again. Mm-hmm. And I should never well, yeah, you've done it. Those 400-meter ultras.
Yeah.
I'm never doing
not my favorite. They
not
my favorite.
Because when you start going slow, you're taking 5-6 minutes a lap or longer.
Yeah.
And it's like, 48.25, 48.5. Yeah. And so I go to the Dome. I paid for it way in advance, had tickets on my points. And I get there, thought I was going to give it my all. And right from the start, I was like not having any fun. It was only 3 lanes wide. You can't socialize. You can't do any of the things I want to do. I did watch Yolanda and Anthony Culpepper walk 100 miles in under 24 hours. They're only like the 93rd and 94th people to ever do it. And there was a judge there making sure they never ran. Phenomenal. Yolanda finished with like 9 minutes on the clock. Anthony. But so I got to like 55 miles in the first day. And I'm like, I don't even think I'm going to get to 300. What's the point? I could get to 200. I'm not having any fun. I'm like being Debbie Downer here. And so I call the airlines, and they're like, oh yeah, you could fly home and we won't charge you anything. And I was like, started packing my stuff up. And I actually was 1 lap shy of 100K. And I didn't get the 100K. Because I got on a plane and I went home, and I was back doing 10, 15 miles by myself at home. But it just was like, I'm not going to torture myself going around this thing. But I've also been at this since 1979. So I've got been there and got a lot of miles on my legs. Because when did you start running?
Oh, geez. Like 2013. I was 30 pack a day beer drinker and a pack of cigarettes, and I had anxiety and panic attacks, and my wife got into 5Ks, and she basically drugged me kicking and screaming to my first 5K, and at 46 years old. Yeah. And I didn't leave her side the whole 3 miles because I was terrified that I was gonna have a heart attack and keel over somewhere or something. So it took me a good 6 months probably to where I would like leave her and kind of creep away from her for the last mile, and then I did a 10K, and then that sucks. I'm never doing that crap again. Well, then I signed up for a half, and the progression.
You're pretty fast though in like the 5K, 10Ks, half marathons. I mean, for someone who's a new runner and just everything. I mean, I see your times, and I often tell people like, you might have fell in love with this ultra stuff, but stick with the things that you're good at and enjoying and can improve. Right. Like I'm amazed. I always talk to ultra runners like yourself, and you pick up a book and read it and I'll go, hey, what's your 10K time? And at least you ran some. I talk to so many people like they've never run anything under a 50K. I'm like, That's insane. like just to go from 0 to marathons and ultras. I mean, at least you did some of the shorter races, but I often
Yeah.
tell people max out in the 5K, then move up to the 10K and the marathon. Because I often tell people that the thing about those races is they're little mini experiments, and what you learn in a mile race works in a 100-mile race, but
Yeah.
you don't have to spend so much capital on it. You don't have to spend so much, it's like you're in your elementary lab where you're just putting baking soda and vinegar together. You're not putting two
Right.
caustic acids and trying to find the cure for COVID. Whereas if you go to these ultras, it's the part that you're going to fail is so high. The risk, you're just doing these crazy experiments. And so I'd highly recommend. I mean, like I said, I've just seen your postings over the years, and I go, he's a lot faster than you'd expect in terms of just, and so I would highly recommend kind of sticking with those and enjoying those. And
I do. Yeah, I try to, Urban Cow in Sacramento was the first half I ever did. So, I kind of have a love affair with that race, and it's not going to happen this year. I think it's virtual, but I do it every year. And then that leads right into Run the Parkway 20 miler, which is a warm up for CIM, which was my first marathon. So those 3 races in progression
nice.
are kind of, they're kind of my staple every year. And I just try to do better every year. Of course, I run the Gold Country Half, which is my local run shop. April and I are on the Gold Country Run and Sport team, so we do that every year. I just, I think I'm down to 146 and a half now, which
that's fast.
I broke 2, a year ago. So I just try to keep inching down a little at a time. So
and the whole point of this podcast is, one, because I hate to write, so I could write a blog, but I don't want to write a blog. And I kind of came up with this idea when I was coaching, because people would ask me stuff, and I was like, if I could just record it and answer the question instead of having to write it. But the reason I ask you these things and talk to you about this is just so other people can be like, oh, okay, there is another way. Like I'm praising you in terms of you at least started with the 5Ks and the 10Ks, and you've had some success. I mean, if you're running 146 half with some work and watching what you're doing, you could go to Boston.
Yeah, the problem is about mile 20, that 146 just goes to shit. And,
but that's because of the way you train. But I'm saying,
absolutely
right. But with that 146 half will predict out. We'll predict out. In fact, I'm going to put it in here on my little calculator right now.
Here we go. Coach Noise to the rescue.
One of the calculators, and I don't know how old you are now. How old are you?
53.
Yeah, a 146 predicts a 343 marathon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I was saying, in terms of if you're interested in, challenging yourself and doing stuff, and, that's another outlet. It kind of sucks is that I kind of got pigeonholed in some way of in this whole ultra madness thing, ultra stuff. And I, do like the stuff, but I'm more about, I want to make lifetime athletes and enjoy it. And, ultras, the burnout factor, as you know, is really high, and a lot of times it's a suffer fest, and there's so much more out there and can enjoy it. Like, you run these shorter races and you can place in your age groups. But I mean, and I'm not lying, like a 146 is a good time, for your, anybody, but it predicts out a 343, and you only got to run, I think, a little around 4 hours for Boston around there.
I think I'm still 345, something like that.
Well, you're right on
just for the base time. So
yeah.
But the problem with that is that 146 that I ran, I was kicking myself in the backside the whole time, thinking there's no way I can do this for 13 miles. And I just had enough coffee that day or enough gels to do it. So if I had to run another mile after that, I don't think I could have ran it anywhere close to that race or so that pace. So,
but you got you like I said, you got the wheels. Let's see. They, of course, don't put it on here. Yeah, the Boston Marathon qualifying times are ridiculous, though.
Yeah.
In terms of just you got to run. Yeah, when you turn 55, you got to run 335.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. So,
but see, the problem with,
I'm not running 330.
Yeah. Well, the problem with the Boston Marathon times is someone actually should, not that I'm a suing type, like when I fell and slipped on the grease, but the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, or something should sue like the Boston Marathon, because it's all physics. If you're a 200-pound man and built like a Greek god, you are not running
Mhm.
under 3 hours. Something that
Right.
I've never seen a guy 200 pounds run a sub 3 hour marathon. Like I got a
Right.
kid I used to coach. I call him a kid. He's in his 30s. It's Tyler Graywall kid, Division I center fielder in baseball, built like a Greek god. And, he runs like 315, 320 marathons because he weighs 185, 190. He hopped off
Sure.
in an Ironman though and threw down an Ironman. He ran a 345 marathon at the end of an Ironman, but he's just too big. And so I often talk about this, and I like to talk to race directors about possibly just having informal weight categories because, you do have them, obviously in the martial arts because people are going to get killed. But I say,
Right.
yeah, but in weightlifting, you have weight categories. And I'd say like, hey, have 10 kilogram weight categories. So, 90K is 200 pounds, 100K is 220, something like that in terms of just so you're competing against other people, and it would open up the sport to more people. Because right now, like I have friends who qualify for Boston all the time because they're these skinny little,
Right.
anorexic looking, no offense to anorexic, but I mean, they're 6 foot tall and weigh 150 pounds, and no matter what they do, they can't get heavy. And so they can
Right.
qualify for Boston all the time because it's just physics. F
Right.
equals MA. You got a big M, you got to have a big ass A to move acceleration. And so, someone larger, you got to get down to like 150, 160 pounds to even have a shot at getting into Boston. And it's all like I said, but I don't want to add more burden, but I've really been trying to talk to people, like and the problem is we got labeled, they had that Clydesdale division, which I don't really like the whole Clydesdale name. And then it's only for 200 pounds. I'd much rather have, and I kind of came up with like, because it's so popular now on like Netflix and everything, have like Viking division. Because they're known as these big, and so I have like Viking endurance and have the big boys and the big gals, just competing and stuff. So,
Well,
speaking of, what's that?
you're absolutely right. I was just going to say you're absolutely right. Like, a year and a half ago, I was, I don't know, 213. I think I'm 194 now, and I'm up 10 pounds from not running for the last month.
Yeah.
So, when I'm down 188 is when, this last summer, I guess it has been a year ago now, we ran the Diane Haynes puts on a 5K series at Folsom Lake. And so every week she alternates between, Negro Bar and Beals Point, these two awesome little trail 5Ks.
Yeah.
And I think I won my age group 5 out of the 6 weeks.
Yeah. I remember seeing the postings. Yeah.
And it was simply because I dropped 25 pounds, 30
physics.
pounds, and absolutely 100%. Otherwise I would have been back of the pack, where I've lived since 2013. So
how much were you weighing when you did like the 146?
That was right in there. So I was
Yeah.
probably, 188, 187. So,
but the problem is to get to Boston, you'd have to weigh 160, and you just really don't have the body shape type to get to 160.
I can't do it. There's no way. I'd like to get down to about 175, but even then might be a little bean pulley. My son, my 19-year-old's 6'1" and probably 150 pounds. Is, and he's eating fat on his butter, trying to gain weight. Can't gain weight. So,
when you get into your 40s and 50s, but it's definitely, right. Like I said, it's just kind of like sidetracking, but just kind of one of those things I was kind of interested in. So, I'm, so like, unfortunately with the whole thing going on, can't say, hey, so like, what's your upcoming race? In fact, I have friends in me, and it's like we used to have the Friday tradition, like, hey, where are you going? What are you going to do? What are we going to stock this weekend? What are we going to follow on Facebook? And now it's like, we can follow a virtual race, but they're not nearly as like, then lots of those been going on. So you're saying you do have a virtual option with your race too, right?
I do. I put it in primarily in the unlikely event we get canceled, but there are people that have expressed, they like the swag, they like running the virtuals. So I did add virtual 24 and virtual 100 options this year. Somebody else complained that they couldn't get the day off. I was going to just run them concurrently with the race and say, okay, well, if you can't be here, you can run it virtually. It's still on the honor system, but somebody said, well, I can't get the day off. And I thought, okay, well, I'll extend it up. So I opened it up for the whole week. So starting the 14th, you can pick any 24-hour period and run the 24, or you can pick any 32-hour period, which I don't know if we mentioned that. It's a 32-hour cutoff for my 100. So you have to have, I think Melton actually came up with it, told me that a race that he had ran, if you had 80 miles after the first 24, we'll give you another 8 to get your remaining 20 in to get the 100. So that gives you a 32-hour cutoff, which is amazing. It's a course that's well suited to
Yeah.
do 100. It's with 25 feet of gain. So if you don't have 80 in after the 24, we'll drop you back into the 24.
Yeah.
And if you don't hit 100, we'll drop you back into the 24. We're not going to let you place in either one of those races, because that's not fair to somebody who's been grinding away in the 24 and then have somebody fall out of the sky on their head and beat them. So, but you're not going to DNF. So you'll still get a result for the race.
Good.
And both virtual options, like I said, they go for the week. They start on Monday, they end on the Sunday when we wrap up. So you can pick a 24 or 32 hour period to run your race. They're each $49. You get all the swag. You get the ball cap, the finisher's medals, a buckle if you hit 100. I think I've got Buff is trademarked, so I can't say Buff, but we've got multi-function bandanas with Under Ultras on them this year. So, people asked for a bunch of, swag last year, and we kind of upped the game this year, and then COVID hit. So hopefully we get the interest to pay for all that stuff.
You didn't put 2020 on them?
No, you know what? When I submitted my medal design, it had a date, and when they sent my mock-up back, I said, you know what? Let's change that to Lincoln, California, because I ordered a whole bunch of this stuff. Yeah, and so.
Well, that sounds exciting. It's so funny. My 27-year-old kid today came by me and he goes, I got this scarf thing and it's really cool. Like the Russians use. It was a Buff. I go, yeah, I've been using those for how many times? I've been wearing them for 10 years, kid. You don't notice? He's like, he's like invented. He's like, wow, I just found this new thing. I was like, I've been using them for like a long ass time. He's like laughing. So so that's and then of course, you are raising funds for this great organization. It's fun. It's interesting that I have a number of my two of the three ladies I was hiking with yesterday. One rides horses herself, and the other, her daughter, rides horses. So I'm kind of immersed in this horse culture of of ranches and stuff. Like when you're talking about that, like going, isn't this weird? I was just walking with my friends yesterday who are at horse facilities, kind of like our horse places don't look nearly that nice. So the money's going towards that. So sounds like a good idea, good plan. I really. It sounds awesome if you do the 48. I think the 48's a great, well, you've done them too. It's such a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to get people to get to 100 miles or just do, and it's not too much more work for an RD, especially with your facility. I think it wouldn't be too bad and stuff. So what's that?
I was just going to say, especially at 32, I'm already at 32 hours. So another 16 is not going to kill me. So if I can't work out a 48 with Ride to Walk, which I hope to, I'm still working on another little something in the background. I think there's an old favorite that used to be around here that I think needs to come back. So I'm going to keep working on that. Yeah. So
I'll tell you, my couple other athletes we coached, Adam and Eliza, who put on the BB 48, which they're not doing it. Theirs is an excellent course, but it's got a pretty good hill in it. But there's a real need. Like there's a real need. If you are going to put on a 48-hour race, get it certified. There's a whole bunch of people out there looking to get 48-hour records because there's not really a lot of 48-hour races. I mean, there's across the years has it, but it's the weather and things. And so like you put one on, especially in Northern California, and definitely promote it. And I definitely will help you with it, promoting it. I think there'd be a lot of interest. I know Jake Jackson are really great 24-hour guys looking to do a 48 sometime in the future. Or nice. More. And so it's kind of, I think the 48's going to be the next, kind of like, the 200's the next 100 with Candace and all of her Tahoe 200s and stuff. And I think the 48 would definitely be something of interest. So sounds good. We'll kind of wrap this up because I didn't want to get you on here too long and make you, but a good conversation. Really enjoyed it. I'm glad you agreed to come on, and I really hope that the race goes well. And it sounds like you're definitely in it for the future too, and
I certainly hope so.
Yeah. Well, you got all this, you got all that product in the back.
Right. Yeah. I got at least a couple more years. Yeah. I got to get some product out of here. So.
And so now your son is 16. You said.
19.
19. So he's out of school too. So you don't have to mess with all this, maybe college stuff. But so nice. My kids are 23, 27, 28. So I'm like,
No, I'll tell you what, I have a 19-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter, and she has they have a house, a hamster that's their little mascot at this, day camp that she goes to. So she got to
Yeah.
bring it home this weekend. So she's, like every other 10-year-old on the planet, she's
Oh,
on
so you had to.
TikTok.
Oh,
So she said, "Hey, if I get 10,000 likes on TikTok, can I get a hamster?" And we said, "Yeah, sure." Well, she banded together all of her little friends and they all got their spam accounts together, and she hit 10,000 likes today. So now I owe my 10-year-old a hamster.
oh, I
So
didn't. I think I didn't remember that. I knew you had the son because he's come out at
oh yeah,
races.
yeah, yeah,
And I don't
yeah.
think
He
I
was at the
remember.
first cross the earth.
Yeah, I don't remember the. I didn't remember the daughter. So,
Yep.
so yeah, you got that whole thing going on. Oof.
Right.
The whole other episodes of stuff. Well, thank you, and I'd love to maybe have you come back after the race. And we can talk about how it went and all that. Hopefully, I'm going to be up there. I am definitely. It's definitely penciled in that because I just don't see how the other one's going to really happen. So, and
Well,
or my concerns,
sure.
I'm more of like a let people make decisions. Like me and my wife are the same way. They're like, oh, like restaurants can open. We're not going to go to them. But if
Sure.
you want to go, be my guest. You want to go
Right.
to a rock concert. We didn't go to them anyways. So that's kind of like how I am more like let things fly and the dust settles the way it dust settles. And in the end, I'll walk out like a cockroach going, hey, where'd everybody go?
Yeah, you and Howard Stern. He's
Yeah.
not leaving his house either. So
So, I mean, I was door dashing just because make some extra money and just get out and stuff. And it was awesome when everything got shut down because the restaurants were shut down. And I just would walk in, grab food, drop it out people's doors, and never see anybody. But then when the
right.
restaurants opened up, it was just complete chaos. And I quit doing it. And the scariest thing was everyone eating in the restaurants was either over 70 or bigger than me. And
Right.
you're like, what the
Right.
hell are you doing out of your house? You're the people who are dying. Get back in the damn house. And so, so now I'm not doing it anymore because it's complete chaos, which is crazy. Like they're letting these people come in without masks and I'm running in for 5 seconds to grab it off the shelf. And they're like, where's your mask? I'm like, what are you talking
Right.
about? I'm in here for 5 seconds, dudes. And then the chaos of bringing it to people's houses. They're saying drop it at the door, but then they answer the door, and you're like, so I just quit that. So, like I said, I can ramble on, but thank you for indulging me and coming on. You're my second ever
Appreciate it.
guest,
I
and hopefully
appreciate
we'll
it. Thanks
have
for
it.
having
And
me.
I'll put in the show notes links to the race, and also I have the Noise 10, which is 10% off. I got it wrong the other day. If you want to sign
10%.
up and come out there, and again, one last thing too, I want to say, the Mike Melton, awesome timer, and definitely when he's out there, and that's a big thing. Your friends can track you virtually when you're out there doing the race. So
Absolutely.
so thank you for your time, and I'm going to try to stop the video. I've got to learn how to do this better, and